But welcome to Stream Key. It's our weekly podcast here at TRUgaming where we talk with streamers about how to improve as streamers on Twitch. This week, I'm really excited to have Brihtwulf on the show for the first time. Britt, how you doing, man? Thanks for being on.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk to everybody about streaming and whatever.
Yeah, same here. Also, let me mute those alerts really quickly because I guess that didn't stick either. All good. We're trying out a new setup here, guys. As you can see, I'm in this fancy room. The computer's in another room that's running the stream. It's crazy town, but hopefully it should kind of improve the production quality. So I'm really excited about it. But yeah, so for those of you who haven't seen the show before, the way this works is for the first 40 minutes or so, today's an interview show. So Britt and I will be talking about the topic, which is finding your niche on Twitch. That gets talked about a lot. You know, what is that and how do you do it? That's the first 40 minutes of the show. And then after that, for the last 20, will be Q&A with Britt and myself. If you guys have questions about niche or Twitch streaming in general, anything you have, we will answer in the chat. But just to kick things off, I always like to get to know the guests a little bit. And I think there's a lot of people here from Britt's stream, so you guys know Britt. But for those who maybe don't know you as well, Britt, do you want to kind of introduce yourself, what you do on Twitch, what you stream, and how long you've been doing it?
Sure, yeah. There might be a little echo. I actually, like I said, I don't use any headphones, so that could partially be on my end. Hopefully you guys aren't hearing like any audio echo or anything. I can always turn this down just a little bit too. Anyway, guys, I'm Brihtwulf. I am a variety streamer on Twitch, and I typically play mostly RPG games and MMOs, stuff like that. Though, you know, I do occasionally kind of vary things here and there. I take into account things that the community is interested in and things that are trending and, you know, just kind of some things that related to what we're going to be talking about today. And I try to bring as much positivity and enthusiasm to what I do, as well as some of the knowledge from my previous experience in video game journalism. So that's kind of what I do. I'm Monday through Friday kind of guy. I typically take weekends off, although I do some weekend streams, but it's usually for special events and stuff like that.
Gotcha. So you were actually a journalist before, right? That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I did video game journalism in the MMO industry for about 5 years, article writing, some editing, interviewing different developers and companies and stuff like that. So that was it was a fun experience. And I kind of shifted when we had a little bit of an economic downturn and those jobs were not so easy to get back into what my degree field is, but it was always something I wanted to get back into. I've had this love of video games and since I was a little kid, so I've always kind of gravitated into doing things related to video games.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. Very, very cool. Well, hopefully I fixed the echo, guys. I think I figured out what the issue was. Let me know if there is still echo and I'll work on that. But yeah, Britt's been in the community for a little while, so I thought it'd be great to have him on. And he's been having a lot of success with his stream. I just want to break that down as we go over this. Secondly, this is a question that I kind of ask everybody that comes on the show. Your username, Brihtwulf. Where did that come from? What's the story behind it? And do you have any like old names that you're not proud of?
You know, I haven't really used any other names for the most part, and this name actually dates all the way back into high school for me, which, as you can see, was back in the 1800s. But no, it's something from the 90s when I was actually in high school. I was reading Beowulf, and we had to read both the regular translated version and the Old English, and so that led me into looking up, well, what the heck is Old English and how did these words work? And I thought, you know what, I should come up with a cool Old English name for myself. And so I combined the Old English words for bright or light and wolf and came up with Brihtwulf back in, this probably was like 1994 or something, and decided to just kind of use that. And it just seemed like something fitting for me. So I've used that continuously since that point.
Huh, that's cool. It seems so obvious now, but I know that meant Brihtwulf. That's pretty cool. I like the story there.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, but it's just what I've used for a long, long time.
Yeah, so you can't think of anything else like, you know, middle school days or something where you had something not as
man,
great?
I mean, There have been occasional times where I'll play something like I've played League of Legends with my brother-in-law, and I, for whatever reason, did not use Brihtwulf. I'm also a fan of foxes. The animal is just such a cute little fun wily critter. So I actually have Ghost Fox. Is a name that I used when I made a League of Legends account. Just for whatever reason, I didn't feel like using one animal's name, so I decided to use a different animal, and we went with the fox instead. But typically, for most other stuff, Brihtwulf has just kind of been my go-to.
Nice. Well, lots of little, I don't want to say furry, but animals. I feel like foxes and wolves are very kind of like magical creatures. So
I would definitely agree.
yeah, very cool. I like that story there. Cool. So last kind of warm-up question I have for you here. Do you have a single favorite memory streaming on Twitch so far since you've started?
Wow. For anybody who has caught my streams, you'll probably see that I'm kind of a goofy guy. I don't tend to be extremely serious. I talk a lot with people, I interact a lot with viewers, and I do some pretty weird stuff. I would say of all of those things, my favorite slash weirdest thing that I've ever done was dancing to the Milkshake song during my warm up, and doing so in such a way that I made a complete idiot out of myself. Part of it was intentional. I was trying to show off my skills of bad white guy dancing, but it kind of became a bit of a meme on our channel. And the clip that preceded it was interesting, to say the least. So, of all of the crazy stuff that has happened, that might be probably my favorite slash weirdest moment. That and maybe dressing up like Sailor Moon, but we can talk about that at another time.
Oh gosh. They both sound great. Have you ever tried to recreate that magic, I guess, if it was so great?
Well, I mean, what I do is play things by ear and just have fun interacting with my community. I've told everybody that the way that I am on stream is the way that I am in real life. My real life friends, actually, one of them is hanging out in the chat here. Cy Wolf, he's right there. He's been a friend of mine for well over a decade, and one of my best friends in the world. He knows I'm a weird kind of goofy guy in the first place. I make crazy jokes. I play off of things other people do. I play off of things other people say. So I tend not to kind of recreate moments, but rather just play up the fun times that we're already having. I think a lot of people, there's so much humor to be had in things. There are crazy jokes. There's little inside jokes and innuendos and fun stuff that can be done. And I just kind of try to, when I see something and it brings something silly or crazy to mind, I pull it out and I share it with everybody. That's just kind of the person that I am.
Awesome. I love that. I mean, we talk about it all the time here, but that's where the magic of streaming is. You can't really help but bring your full self out at some point. Even like character streamers, at some point, they're going to bleed through. So having something that you're proud to have on stream and people will resonate with is so cool to hear. Love that. All right, cool. So let's get into the main discussion, which again, guys, is niche. This is like a big buzzword that gets thrown around all the time with Twitch and anything else.
Yeah.
First of all, I want to get your thoughts on niche. What is a niche? Like, what is the definition of niche to you?
So the way I see it is there are two ways to look at that word. One of them is I'm a niche streamer, meaning, I only stream just this weird stuff that, I think is going to be successful. Putting yourself in a corner almost, painting yourself into this little corner, trying so hard to define yourself. And I think that interpretation of a niche, that interpretation of your role is not necessarily a good one. I think that the better definition of a niche for yourself, a place for yourself, is just that. Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Who am I and what can I bring? I think is much more important than like trying to shoehorn yourself in to this single definition of who you are on Twitch, who you are in streaming. And whether it's, Mixer, Twitch, YouTube, whatever, I think some people try way too hard to define themselves rather than just letting who they are define their streams for them. So, there's a couple different ways to look at it. And I think one of them is a good way to consider it. And one of them is a bit of that cliched, my niche kind of thing.
Interesting. So you kind of think people worry too much about it sometimes when, you know, sometimes it actually can be a negative thing to have a niche. That's
I
interesting.
think so. I think that some people who, for example, maybe they decide that, you know what, there's not a lot of competition in this particular area. Maybe you think that like playing super old 80s 8-bit retro stuff is just the way to go because you know, well, there's not a lot of people doing it. It's got a so-so community you can maybe participate in. But what you could find yourself doing is putting yourself in such a very defined role, such a very small role, that you are ultimately limiting yourself by putting yourself in a niche, by defining so hard what you are. You know, you can really limit yourself. It can become a hindrance to focus too hard on that definition.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point. I feel like I don't hear that side of the argument as much as, a lot of times we just hear like niche, niche, niche. What's your niche? Find your niche. You need your niche.
Yeah.
So I think it's really good to bring up the opposite side of maybe you don't need a niche. Maybe a niche can actually hurt you more than it helps you. I
Yeah, it
definitely want
really
to unpack
depends.
that.
I think it can be situational. If you look too hard into who am I, what do I do, where can I fit in, you could hinder yourself because maybe your niche isn't even a type of video game. Maybe your niche is part of your personality that you're bringing that other people don't have. So there's a lot to it. What something for me, for example, one of the components of what makes me who I am is my voice. It's something that a lot of people define me by. It's something that I bring that's a different thing that other streamers don't have. But you may not consider that as part of your identity when defining your niche or role. So there's little things that you want to consider.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, we talk about identity a lot here. And niche is like a part of that, but not all of your identity. So I like that you bring up things that, you don't really define yourself in a niche by your voice, right? Or
Mhm. Right.
there's a lot of things that won't really fit nicely into a niche, but are still very much part of your identity as a
Mhm.
streamer. So I like that
Things
you
that you
bring
could
that up.
focus on that could be more important than that niche. That I play this kind of game. That may not be the most important thing about you. So there's
Mhm.
something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Okay, well, you said, not all niches are bad though. Like a lot of people go too far to the extent where they focus so much on niche that it cripples them.
Yep.
But it can help you in some ways too. So,
Yep.
in your eyes, like, what's the difference between a bad and a good niche, and how do you kind of walk that balance?
So I think there are a variety of things to consider. One of them being the breadth of it, the variety that your niche can offer. For example, there are some people who are so very focused that they are a single game streamer. And while that can work for some people, some people will point out, oh, well, look at Ninja. Look at that guy. He just pretty much streams Fortnite, and look what a huge success he is. That is not how it's going to work for everybody. In fact, if you pigeonhole yourself into one of those super popular, heavily streamed games, you could really hinder yourself by saying, all I stream is Fortnite. That could be detrimental. Whereas if you say, you know what, I stream all battle royale games. I will play this battle royale and I'll do this one and I'll show you guys this new battle royale. That could actually help you out by not only sort of solidifying who you are and keeping your community uh, of similar interested people together. It offers more variety. So not only are you going to get Fortnite fans, maybe you'll get some PUBG fans, or maybe this new game comes out and you're a part of that too. So there are different ways to go about it. Some of them can hinder you, and some of them can help.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like game is one of the most obvious ways to niche yourself, just because it's
Hmm.
so. I mean, it's on every stream on Twitch, and it's the main thing you filter streams by.
Yeah, it's
So
probably
it's
the first stage of defining.
right, absolutely. So that's like the go-to place to niche yourself.
Mhm.
Um, I'm curious, do you have any experience here? Like when you started streaming, did you try and niche yourself into one game, and then moved out of that, or has it never been something you've tried?
That's never been something where I was going to do one game. I don't just play one game. Like I said, I've been a video gamer for, I mean, since I was a little kid. There, however, are genres that I gravitate toward, and that is how I have defined my niche by different genres of games. Because what I find is that typically somebody who likes one type of game, and that's why I mentioned battle royale as an example. It's not one for me. I don't ever play battle royale games. I just don't. They're not for me. But what I do play are things like MMORPGs, and I often find that there is quite a bit of crossover between one game and another within the same genre. So if you like MMOs, people who are fans of something like The Elder Scrolls Online, which is one game that I play, may also be likely to enjoy things like Final Fantasy online games or Star Wars: The Old Republic, other MMOs. It's the genre allows for enough community continuity to make that viable. I never really tried to kind of do the one game thing, and I never even really kind of said this is all I do. I just kind of gave some expectations of this is the types of games that I play rather than really trying to cement myself as one particular thing.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's also nice to niche yourself by a genre rather than one
Mhm.
game because it helps you in case you get tired of playing one game, right? You're not locked into that. Because I
Yeah.
think a lot of streamers could be in a situation where, maybe they decide they want to niche themselves in something and they start on the path and then a month down the road or 2 months down the road, they get sick of the game they're playing. And then suddenly they're out of luck because the niche that they've been building on, they can't stand it anymore. And then what do you do after that, right? So I think in that
Yeah,
sense, it
there's
makes
definitely
sense.
a burnout factor that can be involved if you make your niche too narrow, if you define yourself too narrow by maybe a single game or something, you can get burnt out. And then what may happen, and what often happens, especially if you don't do it very often, is when you do try something new, when you do vary from that, it impacts your community pretty heavily. There's been people that I've seen before where let's say they're a big League of Legends professional player, and when they're playing and streaming League of Legends, they're getting 2,000 viewers. But if they're streaming maybe the new RPG that came out, they're getting a tenth of that at some point. So it can really hinder you if you focus too heavily and then try to break out of it. It's a hard going.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's easy to stay on like a one game niche when, if you are someone like Ninja who's only seeing a lot of success, that, I mean, maybe it's not hard for you to stay on that niche. But down the road, I mean, League of Legends has been here for 10 years now or so. So
Mhm.
if you're one of those people who niche yourself into that, at some point, probably going to get burned out a little bit. I know a lot of big streamers who stream League are burned out of it, but they still stream it anyway because that's the niche they've kind of locked themselves into.
Right,
So I
it's what
think,
they do.
yeah, absolutely. So if you're planning out a niche, I mean, it is kind of important to think long term. Like, is this something, if I'm niching so hard into this one old retro game that no one plays, can I actually sustain this for years to come potentially if it takes off?
Yeah. And that's one of the most difficult decisions and one of the biggest mistakes that new streamers often make is when they're trying to decide what to stream, choosing the wrong things. Because it sounds like it's easy to stream when you start off. People are like, oh well, all streaming is just doing something online in front of a camera. That's it. There's so much more to it, including those choices. So starting off is probably the hardest time to determine who you are and who you're going to be and how you develop. It can be a little bit of some trial and error trying to find the right place for yourself and trying to find where you fit both in terms of game decision and stream style and quality. There's just so much that goes into it, but you can stumble early. And I think that might be one of the reasons why a lot of people end up giving up on streaming because they really couldn't just find where they fit in. Maybe they tried just one single game and that didn't work for them. So they end up giving up on it.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I definitely think, streaming is a long game, right? You have to take the time to experiment and figure out what is actually going to work for you.
Yeah.
So, in that vein, I'm kind of curious. Do you want to talk about like your own process of finding, if not your niche, your own identity with your stream? Because I'm sure you had some sort of experimentation or
Yeah.
adaptation since you started streaming.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that I looked at was what kind of games do I enjoy? And that is a huge part of it. And I will tell people, obviously, never play something you don't like. Don't play games you don't like. one of the reasons why I don't play PUBG and Fortnite, even though people have said you should stream. I don't like those kinds of games. I don't like battle royale games, so I just don't play them ever. If I did, I know that I would probably be frustrated and I wouldn't enjoy myself. And that would show through on my streams because I don't particularly like those hyper competitive games. I just, I find them too easy to get frustrated in. So that's something that I just wouldn't do. And so I said, okay, well, what kind of games do I like? And I picked a handful of them. And I considered I'll probably be what most people refer to as a variety streamer. I'll play some of the new things, but I'll stick within kind of the genres of games that I enjoy. And once I decided that, and that's a pretty broad niche, really, variety streamer it's almost hard to call it that. My actual process is not just play what I want, because I don't want to sound rude, but that also doesn't work. Well, I really like, here's an example. I love a game called Star Trek Online. It's an MMORPG that I really enjoy. But at any given point in the Twitch directory, there are less than probably 50 people in total watching that game. And while I would love to spend more time playing that lovely Star Trek Online, which I believe is a great game, viewers don't believe it's that great of a game. So it's a decision-making process, and I have and had a certain process when deciding within the chosen genres I like what games to play and what games not to play.
That's so good. There's 2 points there I think you brought up there. Great. So when you were kind of figuring out what content you wanted to have on your channel consistently, two sides, right? So you had the fact people were telling you to play BRs and Fortnite because it's popular on Twitch, right? Everyone's watching it. There's so many viewers. But that's not what you enjoyed. So like what was optimal on paper, you didn't go for. But at the same time, you didn't also just play games that you wanted to play, because some of those games are not going to get a viewing. So it's the balance between finding something that A, you enjoy and can sustain for a long time, like really enjoy and not put on an act to enjoy for the stream, and B, something that is not going to be dead in the water in a month, 2 months, but that actually has some potential to build you an audience. Think kind of smartly about that.
Yeah, it is. It's a decision-making process. And so what I end up with is I have a selection of, say, 20 to 50 games that are neither in the top 10 streamed games on Twitch, where I would be buried in the directory of countless streamers trying to make a name for themselves in any of those games, because there are some games that I like there. I mentioned League of Legends. I've played that a little bit with my brother-in-law in the past, but I will not stream League of Legends because there are too many people. I would never get any kind of traction or growth. But between the top 10 of stay away from these because no one will ever see you, and the dead zone of Twitch, which is probably less than 50 viewers in a channel, you can kind of consider that game a bit in the dead zone. In between there's probably a good 20, 30, 40 games that I would enjoy playing, that I do enjoy playing. And so I make my decisions in that range.
Yeah, and I think this kind of ties in with back to, I always go back to, you have to set goals for your channel and what you want to see out of your stream. Because I mean, it's very clear in your case, growth and viewership do matter to you to some extent, right? Like you want to see this thing succeed and grow. So some people, like, let's say you're a League of Legends streamer who just likes streaming the game. If growth is not that important to you, like if you do not want to take this full time, if you just like turn on a stream and play with friends, then in that case, like you don't have to let viewership numbers or potential for growth stop you. It all comes back to what you want to get.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You don't have to. There are different people who stream for different reasons on Twitch. So you've got anybody from I just stream this to kind of maybe meet some people, have a good time, and I stream whenever I can and do whatever I want. And that's totally fine. If you're doing that, you can really then stream anything. If you don't care about growth, if you don't care about lots of new people, if you don't care about numbers at all, then yes, the sky is the limit in terms of what you can choose, what you can play, and when you can play it. That's totally fine. But if you are of the mindset of, I want to be a streamer, like I want to make something of this, it's not quite the same process. You can't just do whatever, whenever at that point. Things like schedule, things like dedication, consistency, and decision making start to become much more significant. So if you are doing what I do and stream 5 to 6 days a week and want to grow it into maybe even possibly a part-time job or a career or something like that, it's not quite the same process as somebody who maybe is a college student and just kind of does it on the side for fun, or somebody who just plays a lot of video games with their friends and kind of streams when they can. I mean, you can't compare the process for finding yourself in those two different areas at all. It's a completely different world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes me think of even just gaming. Like you have people who play games just for fun, right? And
Yeah.
whether it's PvP or PvE, just casual gaming, and then people who, are very competitive in the esports and working very hard. Both people enjoy the game in different ways, right? Like you can have fun just turning it on, playing it casually, not thinking too much about it, playing with friends, whatever. Or you can play the game in a much more competitive way and do
Right.
research and drills and things like that. It's the same kind of thing as streaming. There's casual and competitive streaming. I mean, not really competitive, but for lack of a better term.
Serious, yeah, like more serious, kind of dedicated streaming.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. So,
I think
okay.
that's one thing that new people don't quite understand is that in order to take that step from being the casual streamer, we'll use that word of whenever, you require dedication to your stream and your community before anyone ever commits to you. It's weird. It's like meeting somebody and then deciding that you're going to commit to marrying them before your first date ever happens. And that's what streaming seriously is a little bit like.
Yeah, it really is. The planning and just that's why like I always hark back on all our episodes to just think about what you want to get out of your stream because that affects every single thing else that you do. So
Absolutely.
always come back. Okay, really quickly, I want to talk about for someone who is either just getting into streaming or like has no idea what their identity is, their niche. Let's do like a kind of a guide for someone who wants to plan out their identity or their niche. What would you tell someone who's brand new to streaming to start thinking about if they want to take their channel to the next level with identity?
Well, I would say first and foremost, consider what types of games work for you. Where do you spend most of your time gaming? Look at the hours played on your Steam list and say, okay, I've got these games. I play this stuff the most. Can you find a pattern in that? If, for example, you find yourself playing shooters, first person shooters, third person shooters, that is a key indicator of where you should be taking your stream because these are clearly games that you enjoy. Now, maybe you don't say, "Well, I spend all of my time playing Borderlands 1. I play a ton of that." Well, maybe not that specific game because that might not work out for you in terms of overall growth. But if you look and say, "I play lots of shooters," well, hey, why not style yourself as a shooter streamer? And then from there, you can say, where can I find success with these shooters on Twitch? So narrow it down as much as you can until you find a good role for yourself. And again, in the case of shooters, if you're like, you know what? Yeah, I play a lot of Borderlands 1, but there's not a whole lot for that. But there is some occasional audience for the other Borderlands games. Maybe I can branch out into something like the Fallout series. And now you're really kind of defining a good place for yourself where you're not shoehorning yourself into maybe one game or into something that's got like a non-existent community, but you're starting to define it. So start with your Steam list, start with your most played games, and then kind of narrow it down from there to find the place that really works for you.
Yeah, I love that. Just going off of what you're already doing and then
Hmm.
thinking through systematically, okay, which of these things has potential. I think to
Right.
go along with that, the idea of like running tests is a good idea. I mean, it sounds weird for streaming, but really, like if you stream different things, if you think, okay, these 5 games have some potential, let me do a test stream for each of these. Look back at how the analytics were during that stream. Which had the most viewers, which brought the most people out during the stream. Um,
Hmm.
that's a really good way to test out some different possibilities, and both in terms of numbers, who's going to show up, and for yourself, if you can sustain it, if you enjoy streaming it for that long. So that's a really good way to start thinking about a niche and kind of dipping your toes in different areas for sure.
I would agree with that. And to add to it, I would say don't even just do one stream. I would say do multiple, at least 3 of one game. And not only that, one thing that I think a lot of newer streamers often make a mistake of is short duration of your streams. If you stream for 1 hour or less, you have shot yourself in the foot so hard. I always tell people 2 to 3 hours minimum for a stream if you want to see whether or not it's going to work out, whether you're testing a game or whether you're just trying to grow your community or whatever. 2 to 3 hours minimum, because it takes time for people to even know that you're there. Until you have a developed community, you need to realize that there's a list of other streamers and people are starting to watch, stopping watching, and doing different things throughout the day. So you need to be present. You need to be there for a few hours so that people can be like going through the list and say, oh, hey, here's Crazy Toes or whatever your name is, let me check this guy out. You got to give yourself a little bit of some time for people to see you. So if you only stream for an hour or an hour and a half, and then you say, you know what, I had one person stop in, I'm done. I'm not going to keep doing this. Don't do that. Don't just give up after a short period of time, because it takes a little bit to ramp up. Even looking at my own analytics every day, I go in and I'll check out my numbers. There's this ramp up for the first hour of the stream, and I've been doing this for over a year, and I have a community of almost 4,000 followers, and we get good numbers every day in every stream. But for the first hour of the stream, it is just a ramp up. We start off really low and then more and more. So it's a little snowball effect, and that's with a set community. So now imagine you're starting off and you're trying to get attention for that first hour. If you stop after the hour, maybe nobody ever even knew you were doing it. So that's something I always tell people, that duration is a really big deal.
Yeah, I think Twitch, more than any other platform, because the content is so long. I mean, most streamers stream for upwards of 4 or 5, even 8 hours at a time. That just reinforces why you need to have patience and, like you said, just invest time in whatever you're doing. Like if you're going to do a test on your channel, definitely enough time for it. Even 2,
Careful
3
with
hours.
those 8-hour streams though, because 6+ is burnout zone. If you're doing it more than 3 days a week and it's 6+ hours, yeah, that's the burnout zone, guys. So be really careful with that. What I've noticed with a lot of people that I've talked to, streamers that have come and gone, and streamers that have done it for a long time, is that is the really easy spot to start really burning yourself out. If you're not getting good results, people can start having trouble there. So be careful with 3+ days of 6 hours or more streaming. That I kind of caution against that too, especially starting off.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, definitely starting off. Like, do not. I see so many people, and this is not just Twitch, but on any platform.
12-hour charity stream, day one.
I'm gonna stream every day for 8 hours the next month. They're 3 days in and they never stream again.
Yeah, please don't do that.
Yeah, for sure. But I like everything you said there. Definitely just think through like what you've already done, and this is really a continual process too. Like I would argue you've never really found your identity or found your niche. You should kind of constantly be reevaluating it and taking a look at yourself, thinking about new ways to just expand on your identity if you haven't already, or just kind of more concretely define it based on what you've
don't
already
sell
streamed.
yourself short. Just because you enjoy retro games, maybe you play those really old school games, but there are new indie games coming out that are similar. Don't just say I only play this. Keep an open mind about growing, developing who you are, who your stream is. Everything about it is a process. Even huge streamers you will see will make adjustments to anything from their sound, their layout, their graphics, their overlays and UIs, everything, the games they play, when they play. So always be mindful of don't stop developing, don't stop growing, don't stop changing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, it's just like games. I always look at this is sort of a comparative example, but Fortnite and PUBG. PUBG for the longest time had the lead in BRs, right? Then they kind of dropped the ball and set themselves up for Fortnite to pass them. So that's always a good example to look at in terms of why you have to keep working. I mean, you're never going to reach a point where you can just coast really on Twitch. You're going to have to constantly be thinking of new things to do. And that's not meant to like scare you or pressure you, but more so to actually just encourage you to keep thinking of new ideas and taking inspiration from things and experimenting on the stream.
Yeah, don't panic about it and say, "What am I doing to change? What should I do this? Should I start talking in funny voices and be an elf for a day?" No, don't do that. Don't go overboard. But be open to change. Be open. If you get an idea, follow it. Follow your thoughts. Follow your ideas, and don't close yourself off. That's all.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that is sort of the main core discussion. This 40 minutes flew by. I tell you what. So we're gonna kind of wrap up and move into viewer Q&A. But last thing, I always ask this to all the people who come on the show as the last question. If you could give one piece of advice to a brand new Twitch streamer about anything, what would you tell that person?
I would tell them, be careful what you stream. The biggest mistake that I see new streamers make is in-game selection. So be careful what you stream. I know a lot of people will tell you just stream what you love, but if you want to grow, be careful what you stream. You can't just do anything, and it's not a very popular opinion either. When I tell people don't stream games that are on the top 10 in the directory of Twitch and don't stream anything with small numbers in it, it is not a very popular opinion. But I tell you from personal experience and things that I have seen, be careful what you stream.
Absolutely. I love that. That is actually not an answer we usually get from people. So good to hear a new perspective on that. Planning. A little bit of planning goes a long way for Twitch.
It does.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, that's the discussion on niche. So for the next 20 minutes, the Q&A is open. So if you have a question for Briht, most likely Briht or myself, just tag at TRUgaming. So I see it in the big bright red in the chat. You can ask anything related to what we talked about or Twitch. Try to keep the Twitch stuff. If there's a few other random questions, we'll get to those too. First of which I see from GamerDad. He wants to know what character you'd like to portray next for your community.
What character would I like to portray? Well, I already do like plenty of characters. I would like to go back and do some more GTA roleplay. It's been a while since I've been able to do voices, whether it's sort of like a British guy that I get to do, or get to play some crazy freaking old man or something. There's a lot that can be done. So that's, kind of what I would love to do is get back into some more character play, some more role play. I don't know if I have a specific character that I want to jump into. Oh, maybe, shoot, man, maybe I could go back and do myself that hillbilly mechanic I never really got to jump into. So that might be what I'm doing next.
I love the combination of the mic and the impressions is so good. You've got one of the best audio setups I've heard. So
well, thank you. That. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, question from Ifohancroft says, what about doing single-player games, mostly 3D ones, of the type RPG, FPS, action-adventure quest, without any too obscure games? So I guess he's sort of thinking, for his own niche, is it a good idea to niche into something where you're doing single-player games, RPG, FPS, action?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's totally fine. There's a streamer that I know that I've watched a bit. He's a pretty nice guy, Beardly Man. He plays almost exclusively just the types of games you're talking about. He does Fallout. He does Borderlands. He does Skyrim. He does a lot of those single player, sometimes RPG, sometimes FPS, Witcher, those things. Because that's a nice broad genre. There's a lot of games to it, and there are a lot of them that stay within that sweet spot on Twitch that offer a lot of community that's not going to get you buried. So, yeah, that's actually a really nice spot to be in, and I think that's a great chance. It's part of one of the areas that I play in as well. So, yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Yeah, I think it sounds good, too, especially if you're not focusing on super small games, but ones that are somewhat established, because RPGs tend to be really good for that.
You don't play Witcher 1. Don't go in and like stream Witcher 1 because it's probably not going to work out. But that other stuff totally works out.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. More questions rolling in here. Catbox86 said, Briht, how long did you stream before you felt like you weren't talking to the same 5 people every day? Great question.
It took a few weeks. So I get a lot of questions about how long have I been doing this and how long did whatever take. And please don't take this as braggy, but when I started streaming, I started off 4 to 6 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week, and I still maintain pretty close to that. It took about 3 weeks to get affiliate, and for the first couple of weeks, I pretty much just talked to myself like an insane person. I continue to talk to myself like an insane person, but now I also talk to you people. So it's like having my own personal asylum. But it took a while. And then over the course of the following year, it started to grow. And then people are talking to you more often. But basically, even when people in the chat are not being super chatty, I'm still talking, whether it's about the game or whether it's to chat directly. I'm explaining what I'm doing. I'm thinking about why I'm doing it. I am answering questions, but even when the chat's not super active, I'm still thinking of stuff to say about the game. If you guys know, I always make jokes about it, but then I never shut up. True.
Yeah, I think my own personal insane asylum is the best description I've heard of Twitch chat ever. So I'm stealing that for sure. No, I totally agree with you there. That's kind of what you have to do when you're starting. Is it's going to sound like you're crazy at first with how much you talk, but you got to get used to it because that's what it's going to turn into if you do it right, for sure. A couple more questions coming in here. So Morty Rocks said, how does a new streamer get items for viewers to give away? Is there any avenue for sponsorship by gaming vendors that can help a new streamer, or is it all about having context and a way in, like Brihtwulf has? So I'm guessing you do a lot of giveaways.
I do have an advantage having been a journalist and having contacts with previous companies. So that has gotten me a lot of like free stuff. But then here is what I did also for companies I don't have any contact with. As a brand new streamer, the answer is no, nobody's going to give you anything. It kind of sucks. But what you can do is get some inexpensive things, especially if once you're an affiliate and you're getting even the smallest of Twitch revenue, don't spend it on yourself. Put it all back into the stream. Every penny, every dollar, everything you get from Twitch streaming when you're starting off, don't keep a freaking penny of it. Put it all back to your community. Give it all back to them because those people are awesome. They're coming out and showing love to somebody who is brand new to this. And if you want to be dedicated, that's one way to show your dedication to them. Get yourself some Humble Bundle stuff. Get some packs, get some codes, and say, you know what, you guys, I appreciate what you have done for me, and I'm going to give to you. It shows that you care about them. So some of the stuff that I get to give away now are things that I have gotten codes from different developers and stuff, but some of it is still money that I have gotten from Twitch that I take, go buy stuff for my community. We do monthly giveaways, we do key giveaways and stuff, and give that away. Starting off, nobody's really going to want to talk to you much, so you're going to have to do it on your own, but do it. Take my advice. Take all of the money that you get from everything that you do on Twitch and give it back to your community for a while.
Yeah, reinvesting is just hands down the best way to use your money when you're starting on Twitch.
Absolutely.
Putting it all back in. And I think it's also good to note that you don't necessarily need to have like really big giveaways to see success on your channel.
No, I started off with indie stuff and titles from Humble Bundle and stuff like that. We've since graduated to Razer keyboards and Turtle Beach microphones and stuff. But no, I started off little and just, hey, thank you guys. Here's some cool stuff. Pew, pew, pew.
Very cool. Yeah, so you can still do it, Morty. Thanks for the question. Appreciate that. Cage says, how to come back to streaming. So how do I come back to streaming after a long break because of mental/personal problems? This is a great question. Britt, have you ever had to take a break from your stream for mental or health issues?
I have from health issues, actually. About 4 weeks ago, I had a mini stroke at the Michigan Renaissance Festival when I was out with my wife. And I hate taking time off of streams. I hate it. I even when I'm sick, I don't like doing it. I was in the hospital and I had to take some time off. I had to take I took 2 days off. Then I tried to stream again. That was it was not great. And I had to take a couple more days off as well. I've since been recovering, been, getting meds and everything, but it was a necessity. There was nothing I could do about it. I had a freaking mini stroke and I was in the hospital. You can't control that. So whether it's for a physical health issue or mental health or burnout or any of those things, you gotta take some time off. You've got to take care of yourself. My community's always yelling at me, make sure you're taking care of yourself and don't overdo it, because they know that I hate missing streams because I want to do it. Coming back though is actually not nearly as rough as I thought it would be. Just go right back in. Try not to miss a beat on who you were, what you were doing, and what made you successful in the first place. Your community will understand, especially those who were close to you, those who understand you the most. Your dedicated viewers, your dedicated followers, they're going to come right back. I know another streamer who was away for 6 months after surgery. She came back, and within a month, she was right back to the viewership, right back to everything that she was doing, because she did not miss a beat. She came back, continued putting out as good of content as she could, being the same person, delivering the same entertainment that your viewers expect. It's okay to take those breaks. Just come back into it and don't miss a beat. Just act like it never happened.
Just hit the ground running, basically.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And Cage, if you want more info on that, we actually did an entire podcast episode with Ashley Christ, I think, on coming back from breaks. So definitely check that out if you want more info. But you can do it, man. No worries.
Absolutely.
Okay, we got about 10 minutes left here. Lots of questions in the chat. So thank you guys. We'll try to get through all of them. We have time. GamerDad NC said, how would Briht tackle giving advice to those trying to get into streaming in the non-gaming categories? And how does that impact their niche and category selection? This is really interesting. If you are like a creative streamer, music, something that's not gaming, how do you niche yourself in that instance?
That is really difficult. I happen to watch some occasional art and music streams, and that is auto niching. Basically, I mean, if you're not playing video games, you're doing something like music, like art, and other forms of creative. Now they've got like crafty type stuff too, like arts and crafts type stuff. That is your niche. Now, trying to define yourself in that can be difficult, but you again just have to base it on your interests. If you're a minifigure painter, for example, like certain people that I happen to know and sometimes watch, GamerDad, that is who you are. And it can be difficult to kind of pull out of that niche, just like people who may be a Fortnite streamer who wants to now play League of Legends, and maybe your fans don't cross over. That kind of does define you. And at that point, then it's just about being the best at that you can be. There's a little bit of some networking involved. There's a little bit of, boy, there's so much to streaming. And I could like talk for hours about all the ways you can improve your stream. But I think that does define your niche on its own. What you could do to kind of broaden that is, if you think about it, music, do you want to be super specific? If you are an artist, do you only want to paint one kind of thing? That's the difficult decision. Or do you have the skill, talent, and ability to maybe show digital art and physical painting? What can you do? So crossover can still be difficult, but you can broaden things a little bit, even if you are a non-gaming streamer, even if you are creative. There's still ways to kind of squeeze a little bit of extra juice out of those categories, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's really true. If you think about, I mean, if you're streaming something besides games on Twitch, you're already streaming something that 99% of people on the platform are not streaming. So that does kind of create a niche for yourself. Within that, like Britt said, you can really think of different ways, but especially if you're in something like music or art, a lot of that is already sort of categorized by whatever you're making. So that's a good way to niche yourself even further down if you need to. But good question, for sure. Okay, we got one from For Your Utmost. It's a bit of a longer one. He says, my niche is my personality. Positivity and being family friendly are what I promote, and those working well for me. I don't know how to explain what my niche is and don't know how to utilize it for growth since my gameplay isn't my strong suit. Any tips for streamlining my depression or my description of what I have to offer and how to use it for growth as well? So Britt, I know you're kind of in this environment with your stream in terms of family friendliness and positivity. How do you kind of incorporate that into a niche, though?
Absolutely. Oh, 100%. I love that. I love hearing family-friendly positivity, people. We need more of that on Twitch. We absolutely need more of that. Now, the way to kind of bring that into a niche is kind of difficult because, like you, I am not a master of League of Legends. I'm not super MLG Pro 360 no scope guy in first person shooters either. I don't do that. So, what you need to do is simply make it evident that that's who you are, and bring that into kind of your game selection as well. Don't play those really violent, gory Halloween games. Don't play Outlast. Don't play super spooky, horrible, violent things. Pick some games, pick some stuff within those genres that also represents that family friendliness. Stick to T-rated games for the most part. I branch out a little bit here and there with games that could be M, but I try to stay away from too much of that content. So again, it's about the game selection. Continue doing what you're doing. Make it evident to people through both your theme and your stream content that that's who you are. But game selection too. Go through the list on Twitch. Look at the directory and say, all right, I'm ignoring the top 10. I'm ignoring nothing with no viewers. How many family-friendly games are there in between number 11 and number 300? And start picking and choosing which of those you enjoy, and then bring that positivity, bring that personality to your game selection, and you can get a great community like the one I have cultivated in our stream. I just love our community so much, and you can totally do the same thing with that kind of process. I'm really glad to hear that.
I love that point so much. The idea of using games to reinforce your personality is really good. Whether in this case you are family friendly and you play family-friendly games, or if you're maybe more of an edgy personality or aggressive and you play aggressive games. Just like using games and personality in tandem is a great way to build a more distinct and cohesive identity for sure in your niche.
Yep.
Love that. So great question for your utmost. Thanks for that, man. Appreciate that. Okay, I cannot say this name right, so I apologize. I don't know if it's IFO Handcraft. Says, any advice on doing international physical giveaways? Does the streamer cover the shipping? And how do you find a shipping company?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the problem. Thank you. Actually, I just had to deal with this recently because we used to do last year. I used to do giveaways internationally. I live in the United States, and we have viewers because I am a very EU-friendly time for people from Europe, even people from Asia and Australia come in, and we've got viewers from all around the freaking world, which is awesome. And so I do monthly physical giveaways for accessories, and I used to ship them overseas. Now, I would let everybody know that I covered the shipping on it, but customs fees and stuff was something I didn't cover. We had an issue where something got shipped to the Netherlands, and it was rather a mouse, but they wanted $30 for the poor guy to get it. So there were customs issues. And now, just this year, I've run into the fact that shipping internationally, at least from the United States, has almost doubled. It has made it impossible. So here's what I chose to do. Take it or leave it. If you want to use this tactic, you can. I only offer the physical item to people who live in the US. And then rather than shipping it overseas, what I've decided to do is offer a gift card for either Amazon or Steam if the winner is international. And I put that both on my imaging, I put it on the giveaway itself. But there is no way to ship internationally in an inexpensive way anymore unless you know somebody who works for the company, basically, or you're a huge shipper like Amazon or whatever. Unfortunately, the prices have gone up so much and the custom fees can be so high that it just doesn't work out. But what I have done is offer an alternative prize for international people, and it seems like the interest for the giveaways is still there. So give it a shot. See if that works for you.
Yeah, we have the exact same policy here. We used to try and do international shipping, but shipping graphics cards gets really expensive internationally, and I think it's even illegal now. So we have the exact same thing. We only ship in the US with physical products. Gift cards and stuff we will still do internationally because it's just digital. But it sounds nice to try and say, well, if you pay for the shipping, I'll send it. In practice, it's a lot harder to do that because you get random people who you don't know, who are very bad at communicating, and then you look bad because they don't pay the shipping like they agreed to. So
yeah,
in general,
I even have my own coffee now that is roasted custom blend, and we have some people who live in Europe, and they were like, "Hey, can you ship a pound of that coffee over here to Europe?" And I said, "Let me check on the prices." To Germany, it was $24. to ship a 1-pound package of coffee to Germany from the United States. Nobody wants to do that. It's crazy.
Nuts. Yeah, it really is nuts. So, I mean, unfortunately, that's kind of what I would recommend too. Like Britt said, you can do it in such a way that people who are international can still participate with like a digital prize, and they can really just buy the thing themselves if they want to.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's really no different. So cool. Well, we actually just hit 12, so it's been 1 hour. So with that said, guys, we're gonna kind of wrap up the show here. But Britt, I want to quickly just ask you if you have anything you want to say to people before we wrap up, and of course, where they can find you if they want to check you out.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to, shout back out to that whole positivity thing. I think that if I would really encourage you guys, if you are a positive person, if you are a uplifting person who wants to bring some enjoyment and cooperation and fun to the video gaming universe, the Twitchoverse especially, I encourage you to do it, guys. We need more positive people. We need more people who aren't freaking out and swearing at everybody and throwing fits on stream and stuff. While that can be entertaining, one thing we need is more understanding in gaming, more fun, more positivity. Entertainment in general, it should be fun. So, bring as much of that as you can to your streams or to the communities you participate in. I really encourage that. That's something that we do a lot of in our community. We've got really great people. If you do want to join us, really easy, twitch.tv/Brihtwulf or Brihtwulf.tv even. Oh, how fancy is that?
Yeah, definitely check him out, guys. I'm a big fan of family-friendly stuff as well. And you hear his mic right now. It's a very enjoyable stream to watch in the mornings with some coffee. Definitely check him out if you have the chance. Cool, well, guys. Again, that's it for us. We're going to wrap it up here. We do this show every single Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. If you'd like to watch it, Thursday are interview shows. Wednesday and Friday are call-in panel debate shows. So we'll be back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. with Belly in the chat and a couple other people. Please support the show if you enjoy it, and check us out on things like iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, Pocket Cast, whatever. You name it, we're on it. And that's it. So with that said, guys, we're going to head off, and please stick around because we're going to raid somebody in the True Fan. Just drop a love bomb on them. And thanks for the subs for you guys who sub. All right, that's it, guys. We will see you later. Thanks.